Hi guys, I'd like to welcome you guys all back to my channel. So I actually had to go on my channel and figure this out. So apparently the last time I did a reading wrap up was March. My reading journal is actually in my car because I took it to a park because I wanted to take pictures and then it started raining. So we're going to try to cover all of the books that I read from April till now. And it's not that many books. I'm gonna be real, like it's not that many books, but at the same time, it's a lot of books. So obviously the one that we read for I'll cover the Black Prose books first. So this one was the April book pick. It's Remote Control by Dr. Nnedi Okorafor. If you guys missed it, thanks to Chloe, Dr. Okorafor gave us more information about the Okoraverse on Twitter, and I'm literally just waiting for Chloe to give the go ahead for us to figure out how to make the Okoraverse like a super thing on BookTube. So I'm just waiting for Chloe on that one. But yes, I will leave a link to the Black Prose review chat of this book if you're interested, and I will also link Thistle and Verses as well because that's literally the review that I watched when I finished reading the book. So I will link those two down below. So June's pick for Black Prose Club was The Meaning of Mariah Carey. And I'm going to be very honest. At first, I did not want to read this book at all. I'm not a big biography, memoir kind of person. Like, obviously, I read Michelle Obama, but that's because it's Michelle Obama. But I really thought that the Mariah Carey one was going to be a hotmess.com. And it was a hot mess, but not in the way that I thought. It was an extremely amazing thing to read, but I actually highly recommend that you listen to this one via audiobook. Mariah Carey reads it, and Mariah Carey just busts out in song. I've listened to her entire catalog of music with a whole new light, whole new light, man. Whole new light. And I appreciate some of her songs so much better now. So I actually really enjoyed this book. This was a very good surprise read for 2020 that I was just genuinely shook that I enjoyed so much. So I'm not doing this in any order. I'm doing it as I remember. So these two books are a reread. So I reread The Last Magician and The Devil's Thief by Lisa Maxwell. If you've never heard of this series, the third book just came out. So I was reading it with a couple other booktubers. So basically the premise is there's a girl who has an affinity where she can travel through time. And she is sent back in time to find the magician who has something that is needed to end the brink, which is the invisible barrier that keeps those with powers on the island of Manhattan. So that's the premise of the book. It goes into the second one. I literally cannot tell you anything that happens here without spoiling here. So I highly recommend it. It's a series that I'm really enjoying. The Serpent's Curse I actually have it over there. The Serpent's Curse is the third one, and I look forward to reading it. I don't know if there's any more after this or if this is a trilogy. I'm not sure. I kind of want it to be longer, but then I also kind of don't. Do you guys get that way where you enjoy a story or you enjoy a world a lot and then you want it to keep going, but then you also understand that at some point it has to come to a close? That's kind of where I am with this series. I don't know if it's a third one. I don't know. We're going to have to look this up and see. And then, we'll know. Oh, so the next book that I read was Heart of Flames by Nikki Palpreto. And this is the book about the girl named Veronica and her sister Val, who are Phoenix writers and all that stuff. So remember how I said, I really loved Val, even though, she's kind of painted as the antagonist to her sister. After reading the second book, I'm obsessed with Val. So there's this thing in a lot of books, especially YA fantasy, that kind of makes you want to like love and adore the villains and like, oh, they're villains, but they're just misunderstood, you know, that kind of trope. Whereas Val is basically Killmonger in the sense of Killmonger was bad, but I can't lie and say I didn't agree with some of the things that he said. Whereas with Val, well, I can't say that because that's a mad spoiler. Just basically the series is really good. And I know that the third book comes out this month. And I was really hoping that Fairy Loot or Owlcrate was going to do like a collection of them. Because I got the first book via Owlcrate. But then I decided that it wasn't a series that I just needed to keep reading over and over and over. So I'm not buying the third book either. I'm going to just get it from the library. So I'm supporting the library as well. There's that. Another book that I read is Queen of Volts by Amanda Foody. This is the third and final book in the Shadow Game series. So it's the third book. How do I put this? I was a little disappointed in this book. So I thought that everything kind of had a nice closing. But I also felt, on one hand, I felt and understood why the characters were being a certain way. And in a way, I respected that because it was more real and it made sense. But I kind of felt like the whole premise of the third book didn't really make that much sense. Like, it was kind of just like, but why? But why? But why? And I didn't feel like there was any high stakes in this book. Whereas the first and second book, I really felt on edge. Like when we finally hit that climactic point. And in this book, I didn't feel any type of anything. Like, it was like, I didn't expect anything bad to happen to the characters. It was made very clear in the very beginning that they were going to be all right. And there was nothing that even shocked me when reading this book. And so I was just kind of like, kind of fizzled out on the end, considering that the second book was my favorite book of that series. It was really interesting. I just felt like it kind of just not really doing anything. Literally just, instead of an explosion, it was like, yeah. So I read a couple comics. So I read Moon Girl. And I'm reading Moon Girl just for the fact of, at some point, I kind of want to lay out I want to do a video at some point where we lay out who is the smartest in the comic world. And obviously Moon Girl is one of the top people. So I'm like, we got to read all of Moon Girl. We got to read Tony. We got to read all the nerds, basically. So I just started with Moon Girl because that was what was available in my library. And I don't have a place to put comics yet. So because I don't have a place to store them, I'm not going comic book shopping just yet. But when I do, you guys will obviously be coming with me. So I read Moon Girl. And then I also read Valkyrie, where Jane Foster becomes Valkyrie. And like the Katara comic, I was just kind of rolling my eyes. I don't really have much else to say there because I was very disappointed. I'm trying to think of like why. And the problem is I read this in April and I just don't remember enough to even tell you what I read. And I think that is a good descriptor right there. So the next book that I finally read was The Gilded Ones. This was one of those books where during the performative months when everybody was pretending to be an ally, but now that we're a year later, we know that they're not really allies. This is one of the books that they were really hyping. And so there are a lot of reviews out there about this book. And on one hand, that's great. But on the other hand, like I've noticed that sometimes BookTube has a tendency to talk about how amazing a book is and it might not be. So I was like, I'm going to wait till the hype dies down, then I'm going to read it. So I read it. This is what I imagined the book to be is nothing like what the book is. And so one, I like the way, obviously there's trauma in this book. And I think that it is located, there are no trigger warnings on this thing, but like there's talks about assault and violence against women. And I will say that like I would love to get to a point where violence against women is not like the trope that gets things moving. Would really like that to one day be a thing. But I finished this book and I think in a day, because the parts that surprised me were the women in the story, because these women are powerful. These women are amazing. I want to know more about the women. There was like a weird love thing that I obviously, like, you knew it was going to happen from the very beginning. It was a very YA romance type thing. But yeah, if I had to tell somebody, like, I would tell somebody to read this book, and not for the reasons that BookTube was telling you. Like, I genuinely enjoyed it, and I can never get over this cover, like, ever. But The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. So I read Reaper of Souls by Rena Barron. So you remember how after I read Kingdom of Souls by Rena Barron, I was a little shook and was like, bruh, what? I felt like there was never a moment where I could just stop and figure it out, because I was constantly like, wait, what? It was so many reveals and like, gotcha. It was like reading in a maze and hitting a wall and having to turn around and figure out where to go to start back from. I really enjoyed this book. I enjoyed this book. I did. I said something in my reading planner where I said the pacing. The pacing of this book got a little weird because it kind of felt like there was never a break and there was always shit. I can't even say it any other way. And so when we get to a point in the book, I'm still trying to figure, like, I still need answers from the massive cliffhanger that Rena Barron left in the first book. So this second book is literally explaining the whole thing, but it's still so much I don't understand and so much that I want to understand. And I'm just like, why did you read this book in the year that it came out, knowing that you're going to have to wait again? So obviously this just means that I'm going to have to reread both of these books when it's time for the third one, because I need more now. So I'm actually going to read her middle grade series next because I just want more. I do really like her writing and I enjoy the vividness of her writing. I can get a very nice visual of what's happening in her books because of how well she writes. So that is definitely a plus for me. I personally will continue this fantasy series as I'm actually going to be aging up my fantasy when I'm done reading the ones that I actually want to read on my shelf. And I'm giving a lot of books away to the library because I no longer have a desire to even want to read them. So this book was on my anticipated reading for the year. I think I said, yeah, it was in my second quarter anticipated reading. Cool. Ace of Spades by Farida Abike I'm not going to jack that up. So this story focuses on two main characters. So it's Devin Richards and Chiamaka. Chiamaka is half Nigerian or half African, half Italian, I think. And he is full black. They are the only two black kids in this school. And how do I describe this? So it's basically Gossip Girl meets Pretty Little Liars meets... I can't even think of a high school show other than those two. Listen. Basically, there's a person named Ace that starts revealing secrets about these two characters. And so you're sitting there trying to figure out, like, what the heck? And the part that makes me so mad is that, like, I got vibes off of certain characters, right? So certain characters, I was like, nah, that ain't your friend. Nah, that's something ain't right. And then you get to parts of the book, you're like, oh, wait, what? And oh my God, I think like the last, hold on. I think like the last 100 pages, I stopped. Like, I was listening to it via audiobook when I was doing something, and I literally stopped working, grabbed the book because I wanted to read it for myself, because I was like, who is this person? What is happening? Holy crap. Oh my God. Okay. What? Like, I think I did all of the exclamations. Like, this book is underrated. We are not talking about this book enough because kudos. I don't know if this is like a series or something. And I'm actually okay with it not being a series, actually. Like, I'm actually really okay with this book just being a standalone, because I was shook as. And it is definitely a book that I'm recommending to people. Like, if you like suspense, mystery, this is a little bit of a mystery, trying to figure out who Ace is. If you like your jaw dropping to the floor, listen. Chiamaka. Okay, so Devin and Chiamaka are also like very different personality-wise, obviously. But it's something about Chiamaka that, like, I'm not going to say the scene. If you've read the book, you know what I'm talking about. But it's one scene where I was like, yes, Chiamaka! Again, not going to spoil it for you. But send me a DM if you want to talk about this book, okay? Because I want to talk about it, and no one that I discuss books with has read it yet. And I really want somebody to talk about this book with me. So, yeah. Thanks so much. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that was 10 books. I think that's pretty good. Again, I'm trying not to let BookTube tell me I'm not reading enough. So I'm going to be very satisfied with these books. My question to you guys is, what books are you currently reading? And if you are an adult fantasy reader, at some point I'm going to ask you to list your favorite adult fantasies, because I think I've just outgrown YA fantasy. I can normally get with it, and some stories I will still get with, but the majority of it is just very bleh. So if you could give me some assistance, that would be wonderful. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe if you have not subscribed. And until the next time, guys, bye.